This is a story about a dude named Lane. He moved to the mainland and bought one place to stay. And then one day he went, tried to rent them out. And then he became one real investor man. Hey guys, this is Lane with the Simple Passive Cash Flow Podcast. I've got Bill Manassero, who's the founder of Dawgs REI Network, a real estate investing blog and podcast for 50 age people and over. At 60, Bill retired from the mission field in Haiti and with limited resources set a goal to own 1,000 units by the year 2020. How you doing, Bill?
I'm doing great, Lane. How you doing today?
Good. And I am in my closet because there's a lot of clothes here and it helps damper the vibrations and the sound. And I believe you are also in the closet.
Also in the closet, too. Maybe, at the end of this broadcast, we'll come out of the closet. I don't know.
Right.
But
eventually you've got to. But you are in Indianapolis doing an undercover sting on one of your units.
You got it.
What's the game plan there?
It's called stealth tenant marketing, and what I'm doing is I'm moving in. I had a pretty aggressive plan, a property 22 unit I purchased out here, and a number of different factors happened that the rehab didn't go fast enough and we didn't do the tenant turnover fast enough. So I'm here to accelerate the whole process. The rehabs are real close to finish in terms of the empty units. We're only rehabbing them as they become available, and I'm just speeding that process up, and I'm just like aggressively going after top level tenants to bring into this. So I'm like networking, I'm doing all kinds of advertising, everything. I'm just like, in this total stealth mode here because I'm not leaving until I get up to 90% occupancy.
When you're out of there, you can pay people with the camera pens to go and spy on your property.
Well, I'll tell you, it's true. I learned a lot. I didn't, I stayed in the hotel the first couple of days and I said, no, I've got these empty units. I'm going to go in the empty unit. I'm going to stay in one of those. I want to see what it's like there. And, man, last night, to call the police for gunshots next door. And then, we had, just a whole series of kind of events. Every night there's something new. And it's not like a total, we're not in the hood, but it's a neighborhood in transition. And so, part of what we're trying to do here is just establish ground rules for our unit and then, try to make friends with cops in the area that can come and hang out, have a little room where they can come to get donuts or do the reports or whatever, and just try to change the neighborhood, kind of one day at a time.
So you ready to head into these questions?
You bet, as well as I can be right now.
You're prepared more than most. So
right.
The first question, how much simple passive cash flow are you making today and how you're doing it?
I'm basically covering our expenses. I'm retired, and so I'm doing this. It doesn't feel like I'm retired because I do this every day, but it's, our expenses aren't that crazy right now, but I'm not having trouble covering expenses as long as I've got, the cash flow at a certain level, as long as occupancies are like 80%. But, with the one sort of down unit here, it's really impacted that. And that's one of the issues with rentals too, is that, you've got to keep those numbers up. And you really, there's always going to be times where things dip and so forth. But when you're rehabbing and doing repositioning, it can affect that even more so. So right now, I'm making expenses, but it's not where I want to be. I would say, the 10 grand, 20 grand is probably going to be more of a comfort zone than, what we're doing right now.
Kind of go over your background. You haven't been doing this for very long. You did the W-2 job. Tell us a little bit about what you were doing before you started doing real estate.
Probably the first 20 years of business. I started sort of in the financial services industry. I worked on the corporate side for a number of years in financial services. Did that, starting my own consulting firm, marketing. It started off as a marketing consulting firm, and it grew into a full-blown advertising public relations firm. Sold that. And I went into another sort of entrepreneurial venture. And then I, actually got involved with the whole .com world. I was very involved in a lot of sort of software startups in, I guess I'd be like the late 90s or whatever. And then when the internet came in, we did a lot of venture capital work with internets and so forth. Then I ended up getting hired by one of the internet companies, Meg Whitman was starting, and it was like riding the curve like everybody else, and kind of watching my stock options just growing and growing and growing, and then the bubble burst. and, all this, hard work just was for nothing. And so, a lot of things happened in my life, a lot of changes in my life. I ended up going into the mission field, and we ended up in Haiti, and me and my family, and we were there for 11 years. And that's where I was when started looking at, I'm approaching retirement age. I'm going to have to do something. I've been living
This is the point, the Han Solo moment, where you take a pivot point.
You got it. Yeah, this is really it. I'd been there and done that. I'd worked a long time, and Haiti was a great, a beautiful adventure. I loved it. Hated to leave, but it definitely is a trying experience. And, as you get a little bit up there in the years, it gets even more difficult. And, in Haiti, we battled, I had dengue fever and malaria. We had kidnapping attempts. We had hurricanes. We had earthquakes. Went through all kinds of things. So it was pretty intense. Even my wife even had cancer when we were there. And, so, after kind of getting through all that, I was realizing I think it's time, we slow down, and, we had our ministry set up so that other people could run it, and we just headed back to the States. So before I went, though, I basically said, gee, what am I going to do? I'm retired. I really don't have like this retirement fund and so forth. I had a little money saved, but not a lot. And I started looking at ways to survive. And I started looking at online businesses, and online businesses, are real intriguing, and some people are doing great in that field. And I tried it out while I was in Haiti, and I was actually making money. I'm going, this is pretty cool. And then I got kicked off of eBay, and that was like my whole model was based on eBay. And once you get kicked off, you can't get back on. It wasn't
I got kicked off of Amazon. I've been banned from Amazon for like 15 years.
Yeah, it was like I didn't even do anything real bad. It was just that, you get into this, like, these modes where you're ordering things from people and they're supposed to be supplying, and then when they don't come in, you have to go to the person that bought it and say, well, we're out of stock. And I guess if you get enough complaints, they just kick you off, and that's kind of what happened. So that model didn't look real good. Plus, it felt too much like a full-time job. I ended up getting this inheritance check, and I was thinking in terms of investments, well, maybe I should just put it in with my investment portfolio or what have you. But the market I just wasn't feeling real good about the market. So I just looked at real estate and said, well, maybe this is a better place. There's tax advantages and so forth. And so I was in Haiti. I did a lot of research, looked at key markets that I thought would be good and promising, hopped on a plane. A week later, I came back from the States with 3 properties in Memphis and Atlanta. So that was just something I did as sort of an investment. But as I'm kind of pondering all this other retirement stuff, I said, well, gee, these investments are providing a nice little income. If I could just leverage that, then that would be our retirement. And that's really kind of my Han Solo moment there is, wow, if this is working so well with just a few properties, how would it be, with more? And so what I did is I started calculating, like you were asked me earlier, so what do I need to survive? And on top of that, I have a real commitment to Haiti and what we're doing in Haiti. And so I factored that into it as well. And I said, this is it. If I get 1,000 units, that I'll be set. That'll take care of us, my kids, my grandkids, and it'll also be a means to support what we're doing in Haiti.
Just wanted to point out that one thing. So you bought these 3 turnkey properties, kind of like how I did. I started with the turnkey stuff. And I always tell people, they meet up for lunch or whatever, coffee, or throw frisbee with me. And they always tell them, just buy one property. Because once you see this thing working, you're going to be like, wow, this stuff like actually works. And you're going to see how Mousetrap works. And you're going to want to buy more and more and more and more. That's just a pretty amazing thing. If you're kind of sitting on the fence, just buy something. It may break even, but the amount of motivation you'll get to stop spending your money on stupid things and putting it into real estate is what's going to happen. That's the real gain out of it.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And that's the hardest part for most people, is taking that first step. And for me, I almost kind of did it as I would have put a check in the bank or something. I mean, I didn't really think about it a lot. I mean, I did look at the markets because I wanted to buy right, but I didn't think of it as, something I was going to continue, or have to do very much on. And then, it definitely does. There's a lot of learning that happens with those first properties. And I think that's really where the education starts. A lot of people read tons of books. They go to the seminars and they get the consultants and all that stuff. I think you start learning the second you sign those escrow papers, because there's so much goes in that first property that really does educate you.
Talk about the 70-20-10 rule. The 10% is learning from books, 20% is from peers, and 70% is actually doing it. You're right.
That's where the learning really starts.
What's your worst business or life moment, and what did you do after, and what was your lesson learned? Deep question.
Yeah, that is a really, really a tough one. I think, gosh, I'm in business. I think the things that hit me the most, and I have to kind of go back to the corporate life, was being fired or laid off. That nothing is worse than being called in, especially when there's a big layoff, and you're seeing all these other guys, walking out with their box, it's like their life, from their desk, and you're going, no, they're not going to call my name. They're not going to call my name, and when they do, and you're walking out with this box of stuff, and you're going, you just feel like, it like hurts, and it was one of those moments that actually prompted me to start my consulting business. And so I've had a number of those incidents over my life, and I think that those are the things that kind of, motivate you. I talk to so many people all the time, and people that are looking at getting involved in real estate and those that are. And it's always those kind of moments that seem to really the motivation you needed, Okay, I got my pink slip. I've got, how much is this severance pay going to last me? And boom, you're starting a business or whatever. I would probably say those are the things that hit me. I mean, the layoffs are always like, that's a real tough time.
How many times do you recall being in that situation?
Well, in the corporate world, it was like 2 major ones, and so that was. And then when I was an entrepreneur, I had similar experiences too. I was involved with, I had my own business going, and then I sort of got involved with a client that kind of used more of our resources than I probably should have allocated, and we kind of carried this client for a while. And then things went sour with that client, and it was kind of like a house of cards. And so I'm trying to keep my business afloat at the same time trying to make up for, because I was just moving too fast. And that was like I was kind of a new entrepreneur. So I learned a lot from that process too. So, and you learn that and you make mistakes. And even with real estate, as I've gotten into it, I have my moments and I go, gee, if I only would have done this. Boy, I mean, I learned from it, and I'm so ready for the next time that situation will come up. You actually do, I think, make yourself a much better investor when you do go through those times.
Right. I wouldn't want to work with someone who hasn't made mistakes.
Yeah. I think that's kind of scary, actually.
So the next question here is a mark of a high performer is to put your ego aside and accept the help of others and mastermind with other folks. I don't know, Bill, if you listen to podcasts, but it drives me crazy when you hear these bios of these guys with 20,000 units. I mean, it's like, well, I don't really identify with those people, and I'm kind of a newer guy here too, and I'm just yourself just hustling and making it work. What is something that you've been working on these last couple of weeks? Show people that you're just a regular dude and you're kind of working the same things they are.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this property that I'm working on, this 22 unit, it's trying to reposition, and repositioning can be challenging at best because sometimes you're going against the market as it exists currently. So what you're trying to do, and at least what I'm trying to do in this situation, is we're trying to upgrade our product, our asset there, to a higher level than, I would say, 50% of the other, maybe 60%, maybe 70% of the other products out there. We're sort of in the line of progress. We're between a kind of emerging area that is doing really well. It's a strong area. Home values are going up, a lot of good things. There's development, and it's coming closer and closer to where we are. Now, on the other side of us, sort of downtown, and then there's a redevelopment effort that's going on there. So we're kind of positioned between these two. And so what we're trying to do is position ourselves, and in that, be an influence in the community. Now, I'm also looking at buying other buildings in the community as well. So I can do the same thing with those. But you get a few of these really good properties, and you can start to influence the community in a positive way. That's what I'm in the midst of doing, and I'm doing it like one tenant at a time, one door at a time. And not only that, but I'm also getting very involved in the community, and that's part of my stealth marketing here is I'm talking to movers and shakers in the community and letting them know that we're here, letting them know what we're doing, sharing our business plan with them, and trying to get people on board, maybe other property owners in the area as well, to say, hey, I want to do that. I want to upgrade my my building, my tenants and so forth, and try to encourage others to be more proactive.
And this 22 unit, are you doing it on your own?
Yeah, I have no partners on it. I leveraged other properties I had to purchase this one, and I am basically alone on this thing. And now I've got a team here on the ground. I've got a great attorney, property manager, some folks that are a part of that team with me. But it's basically I'm the guy that's carrying the brunt.
So what's next on the deck? Are you going to syndicate and go big?
My plan is in 6 years to acquire 1,000 doors. And in order to do that, what I have to do is double the number of doors or units that I have each year. So, I'm pretty much on track. I think I'm 8 units away this year from where I need to be. And then technically that would put me at 32 or something like that. No, that's not right, but I don't know, it's like 38 or something.
But I know you have a spreadsheet, and people can go onto your website and grab your spreadsheet.
That's right, yeah. So, technically, all I would have to do is get something like 60 units next year. But I'm really seeing one thing that's really interesting is full force for multifamily now. It's really 100 plus that you really see the benefits, and that's really what I've done is I'm kind of jumping ahead in my schedule here, and I'm just looking for 100 plus at this point. And if I see a 200 unit or whatever that's good, that's what I'm going to go for. But yeah, that's going to require partners. It's going to require sponsors, syndication, what have you.
I've heard that 60 units is kind of the point where you have an on-site property management, someone that their butt is in the seat, that you can keep them accountable as opposed to be spread out over a few properties. Right.
It's exactly. And this with this unit, with this 22 unit, it's definitely below that. It doesn't make any sense to have that. So I kind of use people that are in the property. We give them a little extra bonus and so forth. People that can show units and so forth, because the property management firm, they're about 30 minutes away. They can't always get here when we need them and so forth. But I see a real drawback in that, and that's why I'm literally living in the unit in one of the units right now that's available. And I am showing this place. If people want to come there at 12 o'clock at night, I'm available. So that's part of the stealth tenant marketing.
Just don't be too desperate, Bill.
No,
you kind of want it. You want them to want it too.
Well, and I also want, I don't just want a body in here. I want somebody that's going to be a good tenant. A very good tenant that, will be somebody that'll stay here for a while and also help set the tone here too. And I'm in process. Some of the folks that are already here, they're some are really nice, and they'll be good long-term tenants, and then there's others that kind of fringe and stuff. So, and that's part of being here too, is learning the tenants, getting to know them, and that's for passive investor, that's definitely taking a little chance, so to speak. But I've learned so much; it's been invaluable. I would recommend anybody that is a passive investor to go and live in one of your properties for a little while, and man, it's just eye-opening.
Sounds like I need to put you on my team, Bill, because I don't want to do that.
You'd love it. It's great.
So what is your simple passive cash flow number? And then imagine you had 2 times it. Describe your ideal day, detailed routine, and what projects you'd be working on at that point.
Probably the $20K a month. I think what I want to do is to truly be able to set these up. And now this is a new property, so it's requiring a lot more. And I realize that newer properties will. But the larger properties, you have teams on the ground that live there, that work there in the building. So it wouldn't require as much of my interface. But the idea is, to get on the phone, for an hour a day or whatever if I have to, and just keep checking in on the properties and be able to spend time with the people that I love. I got kids and grandkids, and we've got Haiti, and to be able to spend the time exercising you want to spend and do some things like that, I love to spend time and reading God's Word and time in prayer and stuff, and I want that kind of freedom to be able to do that. And I've got kids in different parts of the country too, so if one of my kids need me, I can hop on a plane and go out there and hang out for a couple of weeks or a month or whatever if I have to. To be able to set it up where it is very much self-sustaining.
So once you've hit your 5 to 10 years from now, once you've hit your 1,000 unit goal, are you still going to be picking up properties? And if so, at what interval? Like once every couple of years, or? No,
I say that, and I don't know what that's going to look like yet. I don't want to, be constantly looking for properties, if I don't have to. But sometimes when you buy in emerging markets, which I do at this point, there's sort of a peak, and if you don't sell at that time, the value may go down, and that happens with all real estate. So I'm more interested in kind of buying and holding, getting good properties that are going to be around for a long time, and to be able to pass that on to my children and their children, and to be able to have a legacy there that will be something that that will just go from generation to generation. So that would be ideal. And but then once you get those properties, a lot of things happen, especially if you've got investors involved too, because they're looking for their cash out on it, and so I know some people that do that, and what they'll do is they'll if as it reaches its peak, you do sort of a cash out refi, you pay people back, and then you take over the property at that point, and that's another way sort of that you can
a legacy asset.
Yeah, exactly.
So have you mentioned obviously giving the money to your family and grandkids. What about in terms of knowledge of this real estate stuff? Are they just, you trying to pass that along, or are they just not drinking the Kool-Aid too?
My kids are actually kind of intrigued with it, and my sons are real interested. They're talking to me about it, and they're learning, and I have them work like part-time for me and do calls and research and things like that. So they're getting exposure now. I'm hoping that they're going to have an interest to want to pursue it, because that's the only thing is you're going to have some sort of a knowledge if you're going to be able to maintain it and be able to keep it going and deal with the issues as issues come up. Yeah, I'm working on it, and if everybody says, nah, I don't want anything to do with it, that could change things, and I'll just sell them all and then put the money in a trust account, and everybody will deal with that or something.
A charitable remainder trust? Give it all away?
Maybe, I don't know.
Something that you have recently thought about burning your cash on for a time savings or improvement of quality of life?
One thing that I actually thought would be a kick is there's just certain places that we love to go away to, and like up in the mountains, for example, and I've always toyed with the idea of getting a cabin up there that could just be a nice sized cabin where you can have all the kids and the grandkids and everybody come up, and especially when it snows, and to be able to go up there and just hang out. But unless I'm going to live there, which, might be fun too, I would, sort of set it up as a, sort of a vacation income property. I don't know if I'd want to Airbnb, have people constantly there, but, be able to rent it out maybe when we're not using it, something like that where you can really escape. And, I prefer not, none of the, electronics and all that other stuff, to really just be able to enjoy the outdoors, bring the guitar and just kind of hang out and, play music under the trees and stuff like that,
There's a bunch of those kind of places up here in the mountains that people rent out. They only rent it for like a few days out of the month. Yeah,
you can block it if you own it. You can block it out, and I know folks that do this, and I just don't want to have to play the Airbnb marketing game. That's kind of crazy, because you have these like periods where there's rentals are kind of slow, and so some people get on Facebook and then they're adjusting the rate and stuff like that. Yeah, I wouldn't want to have to mess with that. I just kind of have a fixed rate, and you get regular people that come back, and maybe then those would be the ones that would rent it from you and so forth.
Right. I'm not a fan of the whole short-term thing. Everybody sees it, and that's what all the unsophisticated investors are going after. After you figure out all your costs and your taxes, you're better off doing long-term real estate investments like how we do and not have all the headaches.
Right, right. I know. That's getting to that point is really where, and maybe it would take at 1,000 units, maybe there would be an office somewhere and I would have a COO there that's really managing things or what have you. And, I just kind of check in like the chairman of the board or something, and I won't have to be actively involved. But I really, I'm working towards moving to that, just almost as passive as you can get it on that.
Last question here. Tony Robbins identifies two large concepts that we're continually struggling to gain perfection at. The first is the art of fulfillment, and the second is the science of achievement. So if you died tomorrow and your final words of wisdom, what would be your secret to science of achievement? How do you get what you want out of life? How do you achieve things?
Spent a big chunk of my life, most of that's on faith, and I went to Haiti, for example, and had absolutely no clue, what I was doing. We opened up a boys' home, a girls' home, a vocational training, like business incubator center where kids learn in real businesses how to actually run a business. And we had a medical clinic, a school, all these different things. I had no idea. I'd never started any of those things in the past, and I literally did go there on faith. And I think God just does so much better at these things than we do, and I just trusted in Him. And for 11 years, I came over there with this business background, and I literally used to look at my budgets and I'd say, we're not going to survive 3 months. There's no way we're going to survive. And we went on to just grow this organization, and some neat things happened. All during that process, and CNN did a special on us, and Oprah came over and interviewed us. And we did, it was like a lot of stuff that happened that I believe was not us. I believe it was God. And so I just continue to walk in faith. And I definitely work at what I do, and I try to educate myself as best I can. But ultimately, he's calling the shots there. Any
comments on the tricks to getting the art of fulfillment? How does Bill keep himself happy with getting all these rentals and building all this wealth, but how does he stay grounded?
Well, I think the thing that I really mention on my podcast on a regular basis is that, when you're doing well, I think it's time to give back. And there's a lot of ways that you can do that. And that's kind of where podcast kind of came from, is I kept running into all these folks that were retired or approaching retirement, and they were scared, and they're kind of going, we don't have the money to do this. And so I would advise people all the time. They'd call me and they say, well, I want to do this, and so I ended up talking to so many different people. I finally just said, I'm going to start blogging. I started blogging. It turned into a podcast, and now it's just, it's free information. People can hear my story and the things that are happening, much in the way that it sounds like your podcast is. You're sharing the successes as well as the failures. You're bringing on good people that with great information that people can use, and that's part of that giving process. And the same way, that's what Haiti is to us too. And I seem to that fulfillment is achieved most when you're really making a difference in other people's lives. And so to me, that's really where it kicks. If you're just there to get yourself the latest Lamborghini and so forth, I'm sure there's plenty of listening going, that's just, to me, I have been there, done that, and I really feel that, I don't know, the place where you really see it is when a person's life has changed and you were, a part of that process. To me, there's nothing more fulfilling.
I went to lunch with this one kid, and he was like in his 20s, and he was like, yeah, now I'm going to buy these turnkey rentals, and yeah, my whole life is going to change, and yeah, that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's there's a lot to it. I had a real education on the turnkey rentals too. I didn't really go into it, but it didn't turn out as great as I thought it would. It was actually just kind of a fiasco. But I recovered from it. I learned from it, and still did okay. But you have to be realistic when you do this. There are some challenges, and you got to be ready for them. But I look forward to those things. I think we almost have to embrace our failures, and a lot of people are so afraid to fail. And there's all this fear that goes into the whole decision about, getting involved in real estate investing as a means to survive. And, we can sit there in that place of fear forever. I actually when I go to those fearful places and I say, okay, let's do it, and I learn more in that process by confronting those fears and even experiencing and being in the midst of one of the worst fears, oh my gosh, everything's going to fall apart. It's going to collapse. And, I learn a lot in that process. And I think that's really where you got to go, because that's part of the adventure too, is learning it. Like I mentioned to you, offline before, in Haiti, I've had a dengue fever and malaria at the same time. I've had attempted kidnappings, hurricanes, earthquakes. I mean, been through all these things and these challenges, and so many incredible things came out of the worst possible situations because we weren't afraid to go where no man should go before, has gone before, I mean, because we just moved forward and we just said, we're going to take this on regardless of what the challenges are. And boy, you learn so much more when you do confront a challenge or a fear and then you overcome it.
Oh, that's pretty inspirational. I'm going to do some CrossFit right now, Bill. Actually, I don't do any CrossFit anymore. I've kind of gave that up a little bit, but
yeah, I think I'd throw my back.
Great things happen outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, they do. They really do, and that's really where it comes. You can, like some of these folks I've talked to, they're retired, that are clipping coupons, and they're just like, well, if I did that, this is our nest egg, and I hate to even take any of it and invest it, and I'm saying, well, then don't, use other people's money, and I could give you a ton of books that could show you how to do that where you don't have to even touch your nest egg. And well, yeah, but then what if I disappoint the and then there's always the and that's really, are you really happy sitting there clipping coupons and trying to survive on the money that you have? Or can you use an extra $500? Can you use an extra couple thousand? Can you use, 5,000 extra? It's not that difficult to do with real estate investing. It really isn't.
I always tell them, well, I'm not going to go back and forth with this excuse train. Tell me what's going to happen 5, 10, 15 years in the future, and is that what you want? What is your goal? Because if you don't want that, something's got to change, and you really need to, I'm not going to go back and forth.
Yeah.
Something's got to change.
Well, that's it, and it starts with your mindset. It's really, you've just got to, you got to realize, that you can live in that space forever, and some people do, and that's not where I want to be. I've taken chances, I've won, I've lost, I've won, I've lost, but I think overall I've won more because I wasn't afraid to take the step.
I think I need to get more patient, like you, Bill.
Well, I don't know how patient I am. It's like, my time's limited here. You got a long time ahead of you. I think that's the thing with a lot of us old dogs here is that we're working on a different time frame. Yeah, I think younger folks, they can work on a 20-year business plan. But, we're looking 5, 6 years, 10 years, may not be dead then, but, I don't want to be 90 years old, and still be doing this, I want to definitely be able to enjoy it too, cause it kind of does take a bit in the beginning. You got to put some time into it, but once it's set up, and if you set it up right, then you can just enjoy it. And that's, I think people deserve that at the end of having worked, their lives and worked hard and earned the money to get where they are and to be able to, just to be able to enjoy it.
All right, Bill. Anything we missed? You want to leave your contact information?
Our website's probably the best place to go, and that's the olddawgsreinetwork.com. And you don't have to be 50. It's not like we check IDs at the door or anything. We have a lot of people that listen that aren't 50, that are under 50, but because we have some great guests on and people that are those guys like you talk about that that have tens of thousands of units or what have you that share a lot of tidbits of wisdom and that everybody can benefit from. But olddawgsreinetwork.com, and Dawgs is spelled Dawgs, so Old Dawgs,
like the University of Washington football team.
Yeah, there you go, right there. So that's probably the best place, and you can write to me directly there. There's also just tons of free resources that people can access, and that's what it's there for. I'm not here to make money on it. It really is meant to be a service.
All right, thanks, Bill. Just got home from work. This website offers very general information concerning real estate for investment purposes. Every investor's situation is unique. Always seek the services of licensed third-party appraisers and inspectors to verify the value and condition of any property you intend to purchase. Use the services of professional title and escrow companies and licensed tax, investment, and or legal advisor before relying on any information contained herein. Information is not guaranteed, as in every investment there is risk. The content found here is just my opinion, and things change, and I reserve the right to change my mind. Above all else, do your own analysis and think for yourself, because in the end, you are the only person who is going to look out for your best interests.